All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. Gene is taking over my role of being obnoxious and throwing his hands at the camera. We got the 8-Ball Ninja with us today, and he's riding hard in shotgun today. But we also got a great guest, Mr. Joshua Smith, the host of the GSD Mode Podcast. I was on his show. Gene was on his show. Josh is a returning victim to our show here, and we are going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk about planning, guys. We're going to talk about how to come out of the dumpster fire of 2020, go and not just survive, but thrive in 2021. He's going to talk about what his team is doing and kind of where they're going and their goals and everything else. And then our second hour, Josh is just going to talk about spreadsheets. So it's going to be a 2-hour show. We're all very excited. So Gene, welcome to the show. Good to see you, man. Your head is shiny as all shit. And I love it. You're looking amazing.
Gregors, it's good to see your face. Listen, finally, usually when you say that, I'm like 4 days into not shaving. I took this to the wood earlier today. That's why it is shiny. I took it right down to the wood. So you're right. I am looking fantastic. I do agree. And not as good as my good friend Joshua Smith. By the way, I didn't notice this before, but when I just got up before pre-show, he looks a little bit like Bradley Cooper, don't you think?
He does look like Bradley Cooper.
Isn't that funny?
I mean,
yeah.
You get that a lot?
I do, man. When I used to, I'm not in, I'm still a real estate agent, a team leader, but I'm not actively in production anymore. But when I was in production and used to wear suits, every day, like, dude, I've been at hotels and I've had people stop to take a picture with me. And I'm like, dude, I'm not him, right? And they're like, wow, no, let's still do a picture so we can fuck with our friends.
Yeah, pretty funny, dude. I've done, like Greg said, I did the show with you. I've seen you on many shows. It never dawned on me. And for some reason, there was a position you had your face in or something. That's who he looks like. So people don't say I look like Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, I'll tell
you. That's a good doppelganger, man. You can't argue that one.
Yeah,
sure.
Just wish I had his bank account, man.
Yeah, we all do.
I
Sure believe that. So, guys, let's get into this thing. Guys, if you don't know Joshua is the high producing agent, team leader out of the Arizona area. Has been doing his podcast, GSD Mode, for Josh. How long have you been doing that now for?
5 years, dude.
Oh shit! You and I started at the same time then. Okay.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's been a stint, man. It's been a hell of a lot of fun, dude. And, it's so awesome when you can do something that, number one, gives back to an industry that's changed all of our lives.
Yeah.
Right. But then two, on a selfish standpoint, you get the pleasure of being able to just pick brilliant minds all throughout the week and be able to learn. And dude, it's just from the relationship standpoint of the great relationships I've gained from it, but the knowledge base, man, it's powerful, man. It's amazing.
It really is, and I think you bring up something very important there. A lot of the times, what you and I talk about on our respective different shows, we have different guests on, but you can pull nuggets out of their brains, and you get like what you're going to do today. We're going to talk about planning and how to really crush it. But I mean, just learning that one thing from a guest, and a lot of the times, agents and people just don't take the time to go become educated, become a student of the industry of whatever they're going to be in, real estate, mortgages, investing, whatever it's going to be. And I love the aspect. I'm the same way as you are. I mean, I love sitting here with guests. I mean, I have notebooks full of notes, but let's jump into kind of what your team is doing. So break it down for us. So we're in 2020 right now. We're coming through the end of it. It's a dumpster fire on fire. But what are you and your team doing? Like what you said you sat down about 2 weeks ago and you're breaking into kind of going deep for 2021. What is that looking like? How are you instructing and guiding your agents on your team? And what have been some of the objections and fears that they're having that you're helping them work through? Because I think all of us are experiencing the same thing. So I'll let you just take it away from here.
Yeah, man. Historically, I've always started my next year business planning kind of end of October, early November. And, one thing that I've personally learned through COVID-19, and I'm a big believer in spending time to reflect, and there can be good that can come out of any circumstance. I mean, as nasty and gnarly and as negative as this whole COVID-19 experience has been for everybody, there's still good that can come from it, right? Like we can't change it. I think if we could all make it go away, we would, but we can't change that fact. So with that being said, what are the lessons that we can learn from it? And look, I've been in the real estate business since 2005. So, I've seen a lot of different changes, right? A lot of different disruptions, obviously the Great Recession, if you will, and not just survive through it, but really thrive through it. But this was the first, I guess, situation where it changed overnight. right? I mean, you can read markets, and you can track inventory rates, and you can start to pivot when it's a seller's market to a buyer's market, when you can anticipate, when you're going to start seeing short sales, when you're going to start seeing REOs, when, hedge funds are going to move in the marketplace. And, and you can anticipate those months ahead of time. But again, with this being such an instantaneous thing, and then planning for, okay, if this happened, we got to plan for it to happen in the future, right? Yeah. Future shutdowns, future, this could be, I hope to God it's not a norm, right? But my philosophy is hope for the best, plan for the worst, right? So how can we further prepare ourselves to be in a better positions to handle if this happens again, if this becomes a yearly thing, every few year thing, who knows? How can we make sure? And that's from a standpoint of from a business owner of making sure we have reserves, much more healthy reserves, right? I mean, I've always been pretty conservative with the reserves, but hey, instead of having 12 months, man, maybe we should have 3 years, right? What does that look like? 2 years, 3 years of reserves, right? But even little things like, I don't know. I mean, I never thought in a million years that we'd be shut down in the way that we did. People wouldn't be allowed in our office space, right? But even making those pivots, I mean, this has been very eye-opening for, my staff all working virtually, but getting to the point where now they all love it and they want to continue it, right? So restructuring, right? How do we reduce exposure, even with things like office space and other contracts that we get into, and reducing that exposure so we can pivot much more quickly, right? But then from there, from a business standpoint of look, my business 100% was impacted by COVID-19. In my real estate business, I have 5 other businesses as well, and all of them were impacted in different ways, but what are things that we can ultimately prepare for? But at the end of the day, dude, I got to take full responsibility of it. Right? Like as an example, I mean, we had 30% of our closings fall out when this first hit. Well, how can we put ourselves in a position where if this happens again, we don't have to go into the red, that we're still, positive, we can, with that. So anyway, we going through that, I'm like, all right, man, we need to start our planning process much, much quicker, right? And with the planning process, I've created a planning process that really works really well for myself and my team. It's that hasn't necessarily changed. It's just the time frame, and I guess the focus and the intentionality of it. And I go through this process. Every one of my agents goes through this process. We've already been going through it as an organization and so forth. But the first thing where I truly believe agents need to start, and this was the biggest mistake I made in my career early on. I jumped into the real estate business again, 23 years old, 2005. And look, dude, I'm a college dropout, never made more than $10 an hour before I got into real estate at a job. Like I was just sick and tired of being broke, and I just wanted to fucking make money.
Right.
So I jump into real estate. My focus was just money. And I found in life, dude, that, what you're focused on is where you wind up, dude. And not that making money is a bad thing or was a bad thing, but what I quickly realized, and this was about 4 years into my real estate career, what I realized is, man, I was making more money than I had thought I could make in this industry, right? I was doing very well on a financial standpoint, but I was more miserable than I was when I was broke. I just got married, had my first kid, and I'm going 3, 4, 5 days at a stint without seeing them. And I'm in my 20s, dude, thinking that I was worried I was literally going to die of a heart attack from just like intense chest pains and, working I felt like the hamster in the wheel, and it was just never going to stop. And, what I realized there is I was setting the wrong targets. And what I mean by that is the way I look at any business that I'm going to get involved with is that business eventually must reciprocate. It must give back to us. And we need to really focus on that. Like, okay, hey, after 5, 10, 15 years, however long it takes to create success in any business, it takes time. There's no getting around the hard work and sacrifice that it takes. But after this, let's just say 5 years, 10 years of giving blood, sweat, financial risks, all the time that takes, the sacrifices, whatever, eventually this business must reciprocate and give back to me. And getting clarity on what that looks like what in a perfect world, after you've built this amazing machine, what does it give back to you? What does it allow you to do? What what life does it allow you to live? And, reverse engineering it that way. I believe that I don't think anybody that's watching this or going to watch this lives to work. Right? It's like we work so we can go out there and live the lives that we know we want. Well, most people don't get intentional with the life that they really want to create. 99% of the people on this planet end up dying with a laundry list of regrets, shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? Because they're not living their life intentionally. So really reverse engineering it. What is the life I want to create long term? What does that look like? What are the regrets I know that I will have? What do I need to do to make sure I don't have those regrets? And because if we look at 2021, which is the next year that we're going into, 2021 exists to get me one step closer, be a stepping stone to allow me to create the life that I want to create. So I want to get clarity on that first. And what I found it does several things. But most powerfully, it's like, dude, with all the guests that you have on the show and I have on my show and the people that we meet, I've for a lot of years, I was always intrigued in those people that just had so much passion, so much drive, so much motivation. Now we're all doing the same shitty work, right? Success. Yeah. I mean, once you create success, the things that you can do and the freedom that it can give you can be fun and sexy. But the path to creating success is mundane. It's boring. It's tedious. It can suck. You got to push that suck. But how do some people attack those same tasks with drive, with energy, with passion, with focus, right? Even though they're shitty tasks. And then others, right, will allow that to get to them and they're just grumpy and not motivated and may even choose to not do the actions. I found it really comes down to, you got to know what those daily tasks that you're doing are creating and building for you. Right. So when I got to show up in the office and let's just say you have 75 tasks in your CRM that you got to clear out today, meaning 75 follow-up calls on your leads. Well, dude, you're going to get bitched out by some people. You're going to get a lot of no's, a lot of rejections and so forth. And that cannot be a fun task, to rip through. But there is a way to be able to attack that with passion. If you know exactly, okay, hey, these 75 tasks that I got to clear out that I have to do today, right, is getting me one step closer to fueling and feeding that life and business that I truly want to create. Boom, man. It allows us to come at this with a whole different element and level of energy and passion and drive. It can make this industry so much more fun, right? So when you got to get clarity on that. And also when you have clarity on that, allows those day-to-day decisions to be so much more effective, right? So like as an example, I want a business that allows me to make the money that I want and need to make to provide opportunities for my family and so forth. That's kind of the given, right? But then from there, what are the things that I honor most that I want a business to eventually give me? Now it's going to be, could be years. For me, it was like 8 years in my real estate team before it allowed to give these things back to me. But eventually for me, it's that what I honor most in a business is time of freedom and time of schedule, freedom of location and freedom of schedule. Meaning, look, dude, I love to work and I'm one of these guys that I do love working, but I want to be able to, if I want to do it from here in Phoenix, Arizona, or if I want to go to Hawaii next month and work from Hawaii for a month or wherever, I can be anywhere doing the work that I do. Also, if today I decide to get up at 5 a.m. and knock out my work and I want to do it early so I can go, fuck off, do whatever I want to do in the afternoon, spend time with my family, my kids, or if I want to, take the morning off and spend time with my family and do it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like the work needs to get done, but I have full autonomy of when I'm going to do it. And again, it takes time to build that. But when you know what it is that you honor most, again, it gives that drive, that passion, that energy. But then on a day-to-day decision, like if you break down to the core of what is success, right? Or what is the path to creating success? It's just the small, tiny, right decisions made each and every day throughout the day that compound over time that allow us to create the success we want to create. Failure is just the opposite, right? The small wrong decisions or errors in judgment, all made throughout the day that compound over time. Well, how do you know if you're making the right decision or the wrong decision? Like, it's really important to know what that looks like. And have clarity in what you want, and that guides those decisions. So as an example, my real estate business, if I want freedom of schedule and freedom of location, well, I can't build a business off that's reliant on me knocking these 100 doors each and every day. Right? Not that the door knocking is not effective, right? I've found in this industry, man, everything works. Nothing doesn't. There isn't a lead source that is not effective, right? But it's just not in congruency to allow me to create what it is that I want to create, right? So get that clarity again on what it is that you truly want in a life plan, what is most important to you, and not just in your business, right? Like we all know those people that are examples that have created successful businesses, but maybe on their fifth marriage, the kids don't know them and they hate them. They've lost their health and they're still fucking miserable, right? So I'm going to pay attention to each aspect of my life. What is most important to me? And create a plan for each of those, have a life plan that's cleared out for that. as well as a 2021 plan for each of those. Right? So then creating that business plan in 2021. And it's so important, you guys, to spend the time really dissecting what that looks like. Like, you need to know what winning and losing looks like every single day when you show up in the office, right? So I need to know per lead source, how many leads do I need to generate today per lead source? How many reach outs, how many conversations, how many appointments must I set each and every day? What does winning and losing look like each and every day? And again, having clarity on what winning and losing looks like and why, what winning means to you, or what losing does mean to you as well on the negative, that drives that fuel and that passion to just go out there and crush it. And we spend a lot of time, man. Our planning process takes us about a month to fully go through and do. And a lot of that is just to invest the time to slow down enough to get clarity on what's most important.
So, I think a couple of things I wanted to touch on, because that was an amazing monologue you just rattled off for us, where there's so many nuggets in there.
Yeah.
When it comes to just purely planning, a lot of people talk about my one sheet business plan. Are you guys go in depth on that, or do you stay 10,000 foot high level? Do you get down into the weeds? What does that look like? Because so many people have different ways of planning, and I'm sure it's going to come down to different personality types. But we're planning, when you were in 2019 planning for 2020, it's probably going to look different than in 2020 going for 2021, because just life circumstances have shifted and you're having to pivot a little bit. So walk me through a little bit in regards to the sequence of actions that took place or taking place when you sit down with your team and say, okay, guys and gals, we're going to start planning for 2021. Go. Do you have them do it? Do you do it? What does that look like?
Yeah, I do it personally, right? As a leader of an organization, man, you gotta lead by example. Plus, I want to continue to grow and create success for myself, right? So obviously I'm going to go through it. I'm walking them through it. Then we go through and we discuss everybody's business plans and create a vision board around it, which I know is kind of woo-woo, but it works for us, works for me. But in regards to that, the physical business plan themselves. So for me, I'm a team leader. So I really have two different business plans that we need to create. Number one, I've got to look at a recruiting business plan for the overall growth of the organization, right? Then we have to have a business plan when it comes to actual production, meaning buyers and sellers. And then each of our agents are going to have their own individual business plan for themselves. But to speak to and when it comes to planning, you guys, like I've taken so many courses on this, read so many books on this. I've been through so many coaching programs on this. And at the end of the day, you got to find, as Greg mentioned, what works best for you. Now, when it comes to, I look at this kind of twofold, if you will. I'm going to come up with my business plan itself, which would fall in the line of the one-page business plan, which is just the KPIs. Right? So in order to create effective business plan, like, you got to be tracking your data. You got to be tracking your numbers. You got to know what your numbers are. It's the only way to create a predictable, measured, and duplicatable, scalable plan. Like, so you got to be tracking your numbers. So again, like, we need to know, okay, how many leads per lead source? Obviously, then too, we got to know what the conversion ratios of those lead sources are, what our cost per acquisition on each of those is, but then also per lead source. Again, I need to know the effort that it takes per lead source to get to that final result, meaning a closing. So we're tracking how many reach outs, how many conversations, how many appointments set, how many appointment conductions, right? How many clients taken, and then closings. And then that allows us to paint a picture. So like example, our Facebook ads, right? So we convert on average. Now it's different per agent, obviously, but as a company total is 1 out of 42, right? So we know, okay, hey, 1 out of per 42 leads, it's going to be one closing. Well, we know what our average cost per lead is, what our cost per acquisition is. Like right now, I think it's like $257 that we have to pump into Facebook to go out there and close a deal. Gross commission 8,500, right? So we're able to look at that. But then again, what is the effort that is involved? Again, how many reach outs, how many conversations, appointments set. And that becomes really important, not just for creating the plan. So on a yearly plan, it's like you then know how many leads per lead source you must generate. What your cost budget is going to be for that as well. How many reach outs, how many conversations, how many appointments set all the way through. As I mentioned there, I'm going to look at that on an annual basis, then break it down monthly, then break it down daily. And that allows me, again, as I mentioned earlier, you got to know if you're winning or losing on a daily basis, man. It's so important, right? So, because if you look at like an airplane, I love using this analogy. An airplane spends 90% of its time in the air adjusting the nose to the target. Well, why? Because of turbulence, right? Well, we have turbulence in life. right? Shit happens. There's days I win, there's days I lose, right? So who knows what's going to come up, man? You might get a call today from your kid's school that they have, a sore throat. You got to go pick them up, or your lead fault plan might get disrupted. That's okay. That's turbulence that happen in life. Go be there with your kid, make the best of it, that experience, right? Well, now I just recalibrate tomorrow. Or if I need to take a day off, or if I'm taking a vacation, we're just always recalibrating on a daily basis, right? But we got to know what those numbers and those KPIs are to be able to hit that. So we need to know what the KPIs are. Then from there, we create our strategy plan outside of that, right? Now there's, before I get into this, I think it's really important. There's 5 foundations that I think every agent must have in place before they really start creating their strategy when it comes to lead generation. Number 1 is, I talked about your tracking system. Number 2, having your CRM dialed in. Set up, knowing how to use it, and so forth. Number 3, your buyer and listing presentation in place. And if we think about this, if you start lead generating, you're not tracking your numbers, you have no idea what's working, how well it's working, and so forth. Right? If you don't have your CRM set up, you're never going to be able to convert at a high level. If you don't have your listing and buyer presentation set up, even if you get to the table, you're not going to convert at a high level and convert that business, and so forth. So, without these 5 foundational things in place, it's like, if you're focusing on lead gen without these in place, you're either going to go broke or burn out, or probably a combination of both. Right? So then number 4, your sphere of influence past client plan in place. And then the 5th thing is your local market expertise. Like our specialty, our niche is residential real estate here in Phoenix, Arizona. Like, we got to know our market, right? Like the subdivisions, the schools, the builders, like we got to know the product that we're selling. Then from there, once those foundational items are dialed in, then I'll start focusing on lead generation strategy. And the cool thing is, like with a new agent, it only takes about 30 days. Like a new agent fresh out of school joins our team to really get those 5 things dialed in. But that will allow agents to go fast, to convert at a much higher level, and just start scaling. Most agents don't spend time, like, you got to slow down to go fast. And most agents don't spend time creating the foundational items, so they get to the point where they're closing 12, 24, or even 30 homes a year, and they're at a max capacity. You see most agents that just repeat the same kind of mediocre year for 30 years straight of their career. They never really experience continuous growth, right? And then from there, we look at creating our strategy plan. How does that need to adjust? What does that need to pivot? And strategy is just taking the methods, right? Let's just say lead generation is an example. The tactic itself. So a tactic, let's just say as an example, would be YouTube. Right? Well, strategy is, what is the effective plan for that tactic itself? Well, I need to invest the time in really studying and mastering and getting to know YouTube. Like, YouTube's a different beast, man. Before I click that record button on a video, right? Like, I got to do my title research on what the topic is going to be. Exactly. Make sure that I have, the right keywords in that title. I got to make sure I've got the description together and written, and again, the right keywords in that description. I've got to make sure I've got the thumbnail planned out. I've got to have the call to actions and the kind of framework for the video, all of that before I even hit the record button, because I can make you pump it out insane, intense amounts of content and get 0 traction, or I can be pumping out the same amount of content and get insane traction, right? So we want to make sure that strategy plan is in place as well. And then, there's other things that are adapting to it. Like right now, man, we're having to do, still Zoom listing presentations, Zoom buyer presentations. So those things are always shifting and changing. The foundational items are still always happening. It's just a little bit of a change of how we might do it. Just like as the technology and systems come out, it hasn't replaced the relational aspect of this business. Right? I think most real estate agents utilize technology in a way to replace the relationships, where it shouldn't replace the relationship ever, right? It should just enhance it to allow you to be more effective and efficient at going deeper with relationships and more relationships, right? So yeah, I mean, with technology that's being released, it's allowing us to do it more effective and efficient ways. But at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. I mean, we're in the human resource, human connection game, dude.
Go ahead.
No. I got all these things lined up, right? A couple of them are for the end of it, because I got a couple like personal questions, but I feel like I'm listening to myself. You're coming 150 miles an hour, right? So, and that's not a knock at all. There's so much crazy information that you just gave in your 5 steps. Here's what I'm concerned about. Most real estate agents, especially the new ones, you probably just scared the living shit out of them, right? Like, oh, wait a minute. This is actually what I have to do to be successful. I'm done. What? And over time, I get it. Like, you've been doing this so long, this stuff becomes second nature. what kind of advice would you give to the newbie or somebody that maybe that sounded overwhelming to get the baseline of this started? Like, what are give me, and I don't know how I want to ask it. Like, give me the 1, 2, or 3 things. Cause you said something in there that perked me up, which was tracking, right? So you have all these KPIs and you have all these marketing avenues and you have all this, but it's really tough to maintain good marketing if you don't know where that lead originated from, right? So tracking is a huge element of that. And I think probably of all those steps, most agents would struggle the most with the tracking piece of it. So if I'm Josh Smith, what am I saying to my newbie that just came in, got their license 2 weeks ago? These are the 5 things, put them on your wall, study them, read them every day. But this is the one thing today, or the 2 things, whatever, that is simple enough for you to go. And if you build that foundation in 2 months from now, you'll be able to tackle 3, 4, and 5, and you'll be killing the business. Is there anything somewhere where you start there?
Yeah, it's and it is, man. As you mentioned, it's a lot. I mean, it isn't a lot when you have the proper guidance. Right? So there's one thing. Well, there's really 2 things that I've done right through my whole entire career, and I was blessed to achieve a lot of success out of the gate and continue to achieve success throughout my 15 plus year long career. Now, it's been an insane amount of hard work. It hasn't been easy. There's been ups, there's been downs, and so forth. But these 2 things, as I reflect deeply on it, are the things that I got right that I truly believe were kind of the foundation of allowing me to create the success that I created. Number 1, align yourself with the right mentor. Right. When I got licensed, I went from W-2, college dropout, never making more than $10 an hour, jumping into real estate. And I'm 23 years old, dude. I didn't have real estate even as far as a personal life experience right? Like, I didn't know shit, right? But what I did is I went out there and I interviewed every single brokerage owner that I could in the area. And I knew it was important I was like, all right, I want to align myself with the most badass mofo that I possibly can that has created the success that I someday want to create. So not only was it a brokerage owner that's created a successful brokerage owner, but he was also in production, had a high producing team, was one of the top team leaders in the entire country. And I was like, dude, like, this is the guy that I need to be around. Right. And I don't know if that, sometimes I get asked, well, how did you have that foresight? I don't know if it was just from, when in my younger years as a kid, I wrestled, I played football, I competed in bodybuilding in high school, I don't know if it was just, I always had a coach and I always had a mentor, somebody to kind of show me the path and the way. So it could have just been, it wasn't like I just had this aha moment. I just internally, intuition was just knowing that I needed the right mentor. And I didn't care what it took. I didn't care what I had to pay. I didn't care about splits. I think most agents or most people, and this is a Jim Rohn quote, but they're focusing on what they're going to get out instead of the main primary focus should be asking, what am I going to become out of this? Like, I didn't care that I had to pay. And dude, I didn't have the money to pay this guy. Paying $500 a month in the space. It was $895 a month on a monthly fee, whether you're closing or not. I was going to charge up credit cards, right? Like, but I just knew that I had to be around this dude. Right. Then from there, like, once you identify the right mentor, and again, in my opinion, the only way somebody can teach you and show you how to create the success you want to create is if they have personally experienced it. Right. Now, there can be situations that argue differently, but it's too much of a risk, right. But then from there, you got to be extremely coachable. Right. So like, I had to submit, man. It was like, if he told me to do something, I was going to do it. If he said jump, it was how fucking high. It wasn't well, let me try to do it this way. Let me, like, be willing to get out of your comfort zone and just freaking commit and do the work. So that's number 1. Number 2 was I showed up. Right. I worked my ass off and I showed up. You guys, I'm not talking about just real estate. It's all entrepreneurship. When you look at the failure rate numbers, it might happen different, like 90% of realtors drop out in the first 3 years, and an overall business that percentage might be a 5-year span. But if you look at, the 5 and 10 year mark, the failure rate for entrepreneurs is about the same industry wide, collectively amongst all industries. Entrepreneurship is difficult. It is hard. Right? Like, if you're not willing to show up, if you're not willing to put in the work, if you're not willing to learn these new skill sets, if you're not self-motivated, if you're not, can't be self-accountable, if you're not willing to put in the work, I don't recommend you jump in the game, dude. You're going to be in for a career suffering. right? So show up, do the work. And if you have the right mentor, man, here's the cool thing. You have to go out there and figure out, what do I track? How do I track? They'll just give you the tracking system, right? A lot of times they'll be able to just give you their CRM. And that doesn't mean I didn't join a team. I didn't join his team. I joined his brokerage because I knew right away, I was blessed to grow up in an entrepreneur family. My father owned and operated health clubs, and I managed the clubs for him and so forth. So, I was blessed to have that exposure. I knew that I wanted to be a business owner. So I knew that I wanted to, very quickly create my own team and so forth, but I still aligned myself in a way with the right mentor that could allow me to go out there and do that.
Yeah, mentors are a huge thing. I was blessed with my father, who's a 49-year veteran in real estate, and so I've been mentored by him. I didn't understand the value that I was getting when I was having conversations with him, because I just thought it's just dad, it's whatever, it's no big deal. But then I started, because every kid thinks their dad's an idiot, and then they become a young adult to an adult. All of a sudden, dad's a genius, mom's a genius, whatever it is. You're like, holy shit! Like, you actually know what you're talking about. You're like, yeah, dumbass, I actually went through the shit you're going through right now. My father created a tracking sheet because I got my teeth cut in the business like you, Josh. I didn't know you failed out of college. I failed out of college 2 years in, just went down in flames. High school degree, that's it. And my dad started to get me door knocking and out there talking to folks and building the relationships like you were saying. And he built a tracking sheet for me, so I knew what based upon what I was doing every day, I could see what every minute was worth, every hour was worth, every client was worth, every conversation was worth, and what every lead was worth. I could adjust the amount of days, the amount of hours, the amount of weeks per year I'm going to work, what my price points are, what my commissions are. And you can see by a fractional difference, if you were to 5 days a week and 2 hours of prospecting would net you this amount, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, bam. Now you see what your income could be. Then you go to your conversion factor, and all of a sudden you go from a 5% conversion factor, which we use as a default, to just stepping up and go to a couple of conferences. Maybe go to one of your boot camps, listen to GSD Mode, listen to Real Estate Uncensored, and get 1-2% better at conversion. All of a sudden you make even more money, become more motivated to go out there and do stuff. And once like you said, once you know your numbers, you can build your business. But if you're just walking all willy-nilly, kind of figuring it out on the fly, you will burn. You will crash. My father has, 2 times in his real estate career, he's had his retina detached from his eye because he was under so much stress and he was bleeding from the eyes. This is not a joke. I mean, but once you lay down the path for yourself, it's like Indiana Jones. I think was it Temple of Doom? No, Raiders of the Lost Ark. But when he's at that cliff and he throws the pebbles and now he can see where the invisible ledge was. Now he has a pathway. That's planning. That's building. That's exactly what you're doing with your team. And it's more valuable than people can ever imagine, because we don't, like you said, we don't slow down enough to speed up. We just charge hard, never stop, and don't give a flying fuck about anybody else. We're going to work harder, when you could just work smarter. You could literally just work smarter by knowing your numbers, your tactics, your lead sources, and what you need to do every day. And voila, now you live a life of freedom and joy. Yep. I mean, it's very interesting, and being coachable is the next thing. I love the fact that you became not subservient and then coachable to a master that you wanted to learn from. So many of us, and I have fallen in this trap myself, you guys, but we all build ourselves an ego up, and then we don't want our ego to get stepped on, so we don't listen and learn from the people who've done it. So if you're hearing our voices, take advantage of what Joshua was talking about. He's dropping just nuggets of goodness. And I see Gene twitching down there. I think he's got another 1,000 questions.
No, I have another one, but I was actually sneezing. Oh. I had you muted. No, I had to sneeze. But no. So I'm gonna ask you this kind of question, but it's more like trivia. You were talking about the mundane tasks, and real quick as an aside, your mentor thing caught me way off guard. That's not what I thought you were going to say. Is number one. Huge point. I love that. Just a side note. Here, according to you, the mundane task was a big deal. Like, you have to do them in order to get to success, right? And I heard this quote today, and I want to see if you could take a guess who said this. And I actually heard it on a podcast on the way in. And what he said was, becoming great entails doing all the things you hate like you love doing them, right? That was who do you think could have possibly said that? Just to take a stab.
I couldn't tell you.
It was Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Right. And he said it on the Joe Rogan podcast. But if you think about it, it's like what you were just saying. It's so easy to put off the mundane stuff because it's not sexy, right? It's hard to do because you don't like doing it. But if you can somehow in your head, and I think what you said when the mentor was saying jump how high, that's sort of like you saying too, is that you got to go into this with the enthusiasm of loving every single task to get to greatness, no matter whether you like it or not. And I thought that was poignant. And I just wanted to see if you can expand your thoughts on that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's a brilliant neuroscientist out there named Andrew Huberman. And if you guys YouTube him, I mean, he's just so brilliant to listen to, and he articulates, us kind of regular people can understand, which I truly appreciate. And, he was recently on Ed Milet's podcast, Maxed Out. And he was talking in there how dopamine works in the brain and how through, and this is all neuroscience, but he was talking about, I can't remember the term that he framed or he coined this as, but, though, like the most dangerous thing that any driven person can do is tie their rewards to external things, right? Meaning, like I'm going to be happy when I get this house, right? I'm going to be happy when I get this thing. And again, I can't remember the term that you utilized, but then when they get there, they have this like massive, almost like postpartum like depression, like that, moms might sometimes get, or so like it's how our brain is wired on doing every little right thing that's leading us to that. And, all the great, here's Steve Jobs, right? It's like, you got to learn to love the process and fall in love with the process. And, I'll say one more thing about this. One of my favorite all time books, and I highly recommend everybody to read it, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it's all about and around, the habits that the most successful elite human beings have on the planet, right? And he's studying from athletes to musicians to successful entrepreneurs and so forth. And, he proves through this book and through all his research and his studies that, the extremely successful human beings out there don't have more willpower and discipline, but they create the right systems and the right environment that allow them to get those, I guess, mundane tasks to become a habit, right? So they no longer have to think about it and so forth. And as he was interviewing, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he's like one of the most elite strength and fitness coaches out there for like the US Olympics and so forth. And he asked him, working with all these Olympians and professional athletes, he's like, what's the difference between, the good athletes and the great ones, man? Like, because they at that level of the game, they all have massive talent. They all have this innate talent and potential and, so forth. He's like, but what is the difference? And the dude's response like really blew him away. He's like, their ability to push through the boredom. That's what makes the difference between good and great. Right now, dude, like I'm obsessed right now. I've committed to really mastering YouTube at a much, much higher level. And I'm spending 14 hours a fucking week in courses and working with trainers and just soaking up every piece of knowledge and information that I possibly can. Well, that's 2 hours a day. I'm sitting there listening about SEO research and keyword, the most boring shit that it's not fun. I have to force myself every day to push through that. It's the most boring crap, but I got to be willing to do it.
It's so boring, bro. It is so fucking boring. I literally, before this show, I went and signed up for a course, just like you, on YouTube on how to do YouTube ads more effectively, and how to really kind of be strategic on it. And I know I'm going to go through that course. I'm going to be fucking bored to no end. But it's like we're doing cold calls. When I was doing 500 to 750 phone calls a day using my dialer, that is some boring ass bone numbing shit. But people are like, oh, well, I don't want to do it. Well, you have to do it. You have to cut your teeth on this stuff. You have to learn it because like you, Joshua, you can't go and teach a boot camp or, do the podcast or run your team without having to have gone through the fire. You can't have that life experience, not have had that life experience and expect to teach it to someone behind you when you throw the rope down, the ladder down to them and bring them up through the ranks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I used to be morbidly obese. I've lost over 100 pounds and I've now kept it off for over a decade. And, when I was going through that process, I mean, number one, I had to get clear on why I wanted to lose the weight and what it meant to me and attach that emotional component to it. And also the negatives of going down the path I was going down, but then, there was no part of that was fun. right? Showing up to the gym every day, the meal prepping, and those that have struggled with weight know the pain that at least initially, for about the first 12 months of this journey, that exists to say no to Taco Bell versus, eating the chicken breasts, right? Because a lot of people, I think their weight gets out of control. And this was true for me. I mean, I was depressed and that was really the biggest sense of gratification and, comfort, I guess, that I had was through that immediate gratification of eating food. But you had to push through it, right? And man, it was worth every second of it. It's the reward is so worth it. But I compare, so much of it to that same journey of, look, nobody likes to meal prep. I would way rather have chicken wings and a beer for dinner tonight than a freaking kale salad and a grilled chicken breast, right? But I'm going to eat the kale salad and the grilled chicken breast, right? Like, never sacrifice what you want most for what you want in the moment. It's a quote I live by, and I repeat that in my head, about 100 times a day. Because look, you guys, like those that are creating success, those mundane, boring tasks are just as mundane and boring for them. I don't like getting up as early as I do in the morning. I don't like getting on the treadmill first thing when I wake up every single morning. I try to talk myself out of it every day, but I got to push through that and do it every single day. Right? Like, we all hate the same shit. Successful people just go beyond that and they do it anyway. But this is the importance of knowing what you truly want and having that clarity, right? Because if you don't know what you want most, then you're going to always sacrifice what you want in the moment because you don't have clarity on that. You got to know what you want, why you want it, why it's important to you. And you've got to want it more than the shitty thing that you're going to have to push through to obtain it.
Dude, that resonates with me so strongly on a couple of different fronts. One of which this is 15 years ago or 10 years ago or something. I was dating this chick, smoke show, right? Just unbelievably hot. We break up. And I was so butthurt about it. I'm like, fuck this, man. Next time I see her, I want her jaw to drop because I'm being just ripped, shredded shape. Because I saw a picture of myself. I was like this pasty, pudgy, awkward looking human being. I'm like, oh God. I see this photo of myself on my boat, right? And I use it as fuel every single day. I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning, 2 hours in the gym, 5 days a week, just eating right, not drinking during the week, the whole 9 yards, right? And I was so crystal clear on my goal that did take place. I ran into her in a bar and her jaw dropped. And I'm like, that is fucking awesome. I reached a goal, but I was willing to go through the mundane shit. I was willing to go through the stuff that really sucked. I mean, 3:30 in the morning, 5-6 days a week. Are you fucking kidding me? That is not fun. Or doing the 100 doors a day and door knocking, or do the 500 to 750 phone calls a day, setting the appointments, tracking your numbers, going on them, writing the thank you letters, doing the shit nobody talks about. HGTV doesn't have shit on their television channel showing the grind behind it. Everyone thinks it's all rainbows and unicorns, shit and sherbet. Saying, hey, it's not how this fucking thing goes. This is a bone-crushing, meat-grinding industry that will eat you up and shit you out if you aren't willing to be persistent and consistent and do the shit nobody else would do. I mean, the book Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy, stands for doing the thing you don't want to do first thing in the morning, getting it over with, then moving on with your day. It will eliminate the fear. And all of a sudden, once you learn that eating that frog, doing that thing you don't like to do, like Joshua, right, you're doing is you're learning YouTube. That shit is not fun. Right? You're just like, I wish I just pay somebody. But no, you want the knowledge in your head. You're a student of the industry and the business, and you're thriving to get to a certain goal and ascend to the next level in your business. And you got to do the shit you don't like to do. It's such an important thing. You also be super clear, like this little book here, right? Ironically, I have the words EXP written on it because I got it at a fair years ago. And I had put it away. Now I write a certain phrase in there over and over and over, 4 times per page, 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and lunch and dinner. And it's getting embedded into my psyche, and it's becoming something that I'm so literal about, and I know exactly where I'm going. Now I'm not going to decide on how I'm going to get there. I just know where I'm going to go. And that's the distinguishing difference. Like there was something I was looking for the other weekend. Like I wanted to have a vodka cocktail, right? And my girlfriend's like, no, you can't have any vodka. No vodka in the house. And I'm like, God damn it, it's just one fucking cocktail. But and I'm sitting there and I thought about it 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 and I thought about it. Started on Friday afternoon. here's the cool thing. This is what I mean by not trying to decide on how you're going to get somewhere, just what you want to get. So we drove over to San Francisco to her house. We were helped because she's gutting her house, a full remodel, right? And the refrigerator was there. And so I just, out of curiosity, opened up the refrigerator, then opened up the freezer. Guess what I found in the freezer? A full bottle of vodka. Now, did I drink it all? Hell no. But here's this. I put my mind and my intention and my thought pattern towards one thing because I wanted that freaking drink. Why did I want it? Because I couldn't get it. So I figured out a way to get it. And it showed up in spades in my life. And this can happen in anything. If you guys are not drinkers, that's fine. Just put something else in that void. Is it money? Is it relationships? Is it entertainment? Is it travel? What's it going to be? Joshua, tell us a story about something that you wanted so intensely that you did everything you could and you were just obsessed with it, and how it came to fruition.
Yeah, well, I mean, I spoke about the weight loss earlier, right? Now I'm not one, and obviously, like I'm in alignment of everything that you just said, man. It's, I talked about it earlier with my vision boards, right? And if you look at my wall back here, you can't see it, but it's just like one huge vision board, right? Everything that's important to me, and I keep it front of mind to be able to manifest, visualize it, whatever. But also when things come up on a day-to-day basis, it just is that reminder of the daily decisions that I need to make. But yeah, in life, man, what we focus on is where we wind up. So you got to control that, right? Like, is your focus, oh man, I just want time off. I just want balance in my life, right? Like, balance is the worst thing, right? Andrew Huberman truly believes it's going to be the most detrimental thing that will happen to our species potentially, is this huge seeking for balance and comfort. Right? Like, the universe is always moving. We were meant to move, man. Like, we were meant to move, meant to create. Like, that's what we're designed for, and so forth. But the movie The Secret, like, dude, great documentary. I like it. I believe in the power of manifestation. What the documentary is missing, though, is backing it up by insane actions to go out there and create it.
Yes.
Right? So you still got to put in that friggin' work.
You do it. The work will never you sitting there and getting all woo-woo with yourself and, mentally masturbating to your dream board without ever taking any action. You're never going to succeed. Like you, Joshua, in my old office, I had literally a ceiling to floor, wall to wall dream board. My entire wall was a dream board, and it just gets into your psyche, right? It sits there and all just resonates in your body. You look at it every single day. My past two vehicles were the vehicles that I had on my wall for 4 years. I looked at them every day, down to the rotor colors. I've had these vehicles. The woman I'm dating today, she is down to the hair color that I wanted to date, because I was crystal clear on what I was going after. I think, I'd love to hear your opinion. We got to wrap it up here in a minute, but what happens if you're not clear? What have you seen with agents who think that they're clear, but they don't take the pen to paper, turn it from, non-reality to physical reality, something tangible they can look at, touch, feel, re-edit, and everything every day? Where's that line of success, do you think?
Yeah, and clarity is a tough thing, right? You guys, like, when I started my success journey, I didn't know what I really wanted. I just made a list of all the things I didn't want in life. Like, I was sick and tired of being broke. I was sick and tired of not having the energy. I was sick and tired of being, overweight. I was sick and tired of when friends would invite me to a pool party or to the beach, looking for every excuse to never have to pull my shirt off, right? So I just made a list of, okay, like, here's the things I don't want in life anymore. I don't want to have poor energy. I don't want to be overweight. I don't want to be broke. I don't want, whatever that may be. And, you can start there with what you don't want. Because so often in life, we don't necessarily know what we truly want or don't want until we have certain experiences. There was a time, if you asked me probably like 5 or 6 years ago, like, what do you want in the future most? I would have told you, at least from a business front, that, like, at that time, man, I wanted to be a high paid motivational, like, kind of stage speaker. And then I got into the speaking circuit. I started speaking a lot, and that came to fruition. And then I went down that path, and I was like, dude, this fucking sucks. Right? I'm away from my wife, my family all the time. It was, but I had to go through that to discover that wasn't the path that I wanted. So, if you guys are struggling with getting that clarity, I mean, just take the time, have the awareness, spend time in solitude. One of the reasons why so many people are struggling through COVID-19 is because they've been forced to spend so much time with themselves and is with their families and whatnot. And a lot of people have a very difficult time, right? Because that uncovers a lot of dirt and they realize and discover, man, I don't like who I am, right? And it creates a lot of depression and a lot of other things, man. So, spending that time in solitude is important, and start just asking yourself, like, I don't have a clear why, my why is really like, why the fuck not, right? And at a kind of a deeper level, when I look in the mirror, the person looking back at me, I want to be proud of that person. And I haven't achieved that yet, right? So, to me, that's as deep as I guess my why is, right? And those things change at different pivots of life. I mean, there was a point in my life where I was like, oh, dude, I just want to, business-wise, want to be a liquid billionaire. I don't know if that's really important to me anymore. It's not that I'm not driving as hard in business and so forth, but, my oldest is 12, my youngest is 7. I know I got a small window to go out there and have a ton of fun with them and create memories and so forth. And that's now my main focus, not trying to grow my businesses, right? But in X amount of hours a week only. So then that way I can go invest as much time with my kids as I possibly can, right? I can re-pick up business at a later point in my life and give more focus when they're older. So, life experiences, man, it's always going to be changing, right? Through different things, but just spending that time in solitude and just getting clarity on that. What is it that you like? What is it that you don't like? What is it that you want? What is it that you don't want? And it's okay to be a little vague on it. Right. But sometimes you got to start with what you don't want, man. If you look at only 2% of Americans right now at the age of 65 can retire without being reliant on their family or the government to take care of them. Well, I know I don't want that, right? Like, I don't want to have it where my kids have to take care of me to the point where maybe they can't send my grandkids to college because I've now become a liability and a clutch on my family. I fucking refuse that,
Nice.
Right? So I'm going to make sure that I'm taken care of, my wife's taken care of. When my kids get older, if they decide to go to college, do I want to be able to stroke the check or have them go get in a shit ton of debt? Right? When they buy their first house, do I want to be able to support them with that down payment? Do I want to be able to help them with their wedding? Do I and then, when I have grandkids, how often do I want to be able to travel and see my grandkids? Right? Like, just spending that time and start slowly getting that clarity. But it just starts with the awareness. Take the time, have the awareness, and it will pivot. It will change and can change fast, right? But just take the time and make it part of your just ever-going process.
I fucking love this. And guys, as you guys don't know, this is Joshua Smith, not the co-founder. He's the host of the GSD Mode Podcast. Absolutely insanely good stuff. If you like what you're hearing today, go subscribe to his show today. You guys will literally get bombarded with knowledge. I've been an avid listener to his show for a long period of time. Great content, great guests. Just, you can hear the passion in his voice, guys. He's not fucking around. He's living what he's talking about. And if you're looking for, someone to really kind of lean on and learn from, this is the man. He will support you. He will let you keep growing and thriving. Our dear friend Veronica Jones, I think we're talking about dream boards. This is kind of funny. I don't know if she was on in the beginning, but she says, I think Joshua had Bradley Cooper on his dream board. So
could have been.
Gene, any final thoughts before we wrap it up, my brother?
Yeah, who doesn't have Bradley Cooper on their dream board? That's my final thought.
All right. Well, Gene, how can people get a hold of you?
Same way as always. If you look on my little screen here, somewhere in here, I can't get to it.
Other side.
GeneVolpe.com. Get on there. There's a little widget. Sign it up. Call me up. Get your boy up.
Joshua, how can people get in your world with coaching, training, your boot camps, your podcast, if they want to join you in your real estate team in Arizona? Kind of how can people get out to you and reach out?
You got the best place. Just go to YouTube. Just type in Joshua Smith. You'll see. I'll be the first dude that pops up. You'll see my channel right there. And that's where I recommend where everybody starts. Look, I always view myself as a real estate agent first, and I know we get sold 24/7, right? So everything on there is 100% free. If you want to learn more about whatever, my coaching, my software, whatever, in the description, you'll see more on any of the videos, but that's just a free source where you guys can get insane information that will allow you to continue to grow and scale your real estate business.
Guys, he's not kidding. I've checked out the site. There's some seriously legendary information that he's giving out to all of you guys for free. Take advantage of this opportunity. Be a student of the industry, be a student of your business, and dive deep. Okay, Gene, do your job as the co-host today. We need a color for the bow for the show.
Green line.
Green line. Is that a red can?
Well, yeah, but see how the lime stands out.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so we got a green lime bow on the show, guys. Thanks for hanging out. If you guys are on any of the different podcast sites you guys are on, please go give us a 5-star, not a 2-star review. Mention Joshua if in the show. Thank him for his time. It helps the algorithm get more views and it serves us in front of more people who could use this information. But I love you. You guys are absolutely amazing. Without you, we could not do this show. So Joshua, dude, you are a legend amongst men. Thank you for your time. I know it's very, very valuable, so I appreciate it. Gene, you are a balder, and I love you. You're an amazing co-host. Until next time, guys, peace out, ninjas. We gone.